A legal fight over your MPG. California goes to court against the EPA and the plan to roll back fuel standards. Plus, new details on the migrant caravan in Tijuana as a select few are granted entry into the U.S.
All the trends I see are positive, other than the homeless people.
The housing crisis is an issue beyond the city of San Diego, how it's impacting the race for supervisor in Oceanside and across North County. And a talk with the next person to lead the San Diego Symphony. KPBS Evening Edition starts right now. Good evening and thanks for joining us. I'm Ebony Monet. California and 16 other states are suing the Trump administration over fuel standards. At issue is a plan by the Environmental Protection Agency, which would scrap a plan to require vehicles get an average of 36 miles per gallon by 2025. California's governor and attorney general say the plan isn't based on any new science and violates the Clean Air Act, which allows California to set its own standard and for other states to adopt it.
This is a science-based attack that we make on these characters in Washington who, in the name of making America great, are making us weak and making the world more dangerous and unsafe, because climate change is not a joke.
With this latest reckless decision, the EPA did not just jeopardize our planet and our health, they also broke the law.
36 miles per gallon is the goal for the national average, but California's goal is much more aggressive at 55 miles per gallon by 2025. Automakers say meeting that goal would cost the industry billions of dollars. San Diego government agencies discovered an active earthquake fault line downtown nearly 10 years ago. So why aren't more people talking about it? Reporter Brad Racino with KPBS media partner iNewsSource has the story.
The city and the port of San Diego both learned of an active fault running under downtown's old police headquarters on West Harbor Drive in 2008. Yet they didn't alert the public, the state, or the company currently undertaking a billion-dollar redevelopment of the land. Here's Mark Legg, a geologist in Huntington Beach who has been studying San Diego faults since the 1970s.
And, in modern times, everyone worries about the value of their real estate, their property. And if all of a sudden you have these hazardous issues, the property values are devalued and so forth. And so for a long time, San Diego, like many other places, has resisted recognizing that there is an earthquake and fault rupture hazard.
The fault has recently been found to extend through the entire central Embarcadero downtown, cutting through a future project called Seaport that will include hotels, retail space, an aquarium, and more. Seaport's developer told iNewsSource no one from the port or the city said anything to him about this fault over the past several years. Officials with those agencies told us they weren't intentionally hiding anything. In fact, the port's CEO told us she had completely forgotten about the 2008 finding. For KPBS, I'm iNewsSource reporter Brad Racino.
To see a map of the fault, go to iNewsSource.org. iNewsSource is an independently funded nonprofit partner of KPBS. Some of the 140 people in Tijuana seeking asylum in the U.S. have been allowed into the country for initial processing. Caravan organizers say 25 people are being processed by U.S. border inspectors. They're part of the large caravan of migrants from Central American countries. U.S. border officials have been slow to deal with the group, citing a lack of space. The Justice Department says 11 members of the caravan will be prosecuted for illegal entry. NPR correspondent Kirk Sigler is covering the story this afternoon at the border. Kirk, there was a big presence yesterday and over the weekend. What's it like there today?
Well, it's still very bustling. There are even more people showing up with supplies, donating food, water, hot beverages. It's pretty cold outside today, as you can tell, and it's been raining. Tarps are being distributed, and people there are just waiting for word about whether or not they can get in. They've been out there for 3 days. Some people who weren't in the caravan have been out there even longer. It remains a very tenuous situation, and there are a lot of stressed, wary people out there.
And any idea about how many more migrants are likely to be granted entry?
We're told at this point that just over 24 have been allowed in to begin the interview process, to begin to be processed. Now, that, of course, does not mean they're necessarily going to get asylum. That could be weeks, if not months ahead. So about 24 or so right now. There are still at least 100 people out on the plaza that were in the original caravan, and there are dozens more migrants who are already here.
And so what's next for those who are allowed entry?
They will get an interview, a series of interviews to where the U.S. government establishes whether or not their asylum seeking is credible or not, and from there we're told they'll be given a court date, which could be, as I said, weeks, months out, and then from there it could be a detention center, or if some of the women in particular are deemed to be credible and have children with them, they may be released and be spending time with family members. But there's a lot of uncertainty, and that is part of the controversy here, that people being processed in for asylum, seeking asylum, claiming asylum from Central America, that they actually may get into the U.S. and not be, and they actually may get into the U.S. and not face a court date or go before a judge for weeks, if not months. So it's really hard to tell at this point.
NPR correspondent Kirk Sigler, thank you for speaking with us. President Trump will need to find a new permanent director for ICE. Thomas Homan has been the acting director for the past 6 months, but now he says he will retire this summer. A few days ago, he spoke with the Associated Press about what he feels are misconceptions about ICE and how it handles immigration enforcement.
I need to get better. My leadership needs to get better at educating the public on what we do, and most importantly, what we don't do. If the community realized that 9 out of 10 people we arrest had a criminal history, they'd probably be less afraid. If the community knows that they can go to the hospital, we're not going to arrest them there. They can go to church, we're not going to arrest them there. They can send their kids to school, we're not going to arrest the kids. There's less fear in the community. When I read in the paper that ICE and myself are racists and Nazis, it's unfair to attack the men and women of ICE who choose to strap a gun to the hip every day to do their job and protect this nation and protect their community. It's unfair to vilify them for doing their jobs. If you don't like what they do, tell your senator, tell your congressman, tell them to change the law. We're simply enforcing laws enacted by Congress.
Homan says he's leaving his position to focus more on family. Under his direction, deportation arrests have increased by 40%. The increase is largely due to the administration ending an earlier policy of limiting deportations to people who pose a public safety threat, convicted criminals, or those who have recently entered the U.S. A total of 8 women now say they were sexually harassed by a prominent biologist at the Salk Institute. The allegations against Inder Verma span 40 years from 1976 to 2016, according to a reporting in the journal Science. The San Diego Union-Tribune reports Verma, through an attorney, is denying the latest allegations. The Salk Institute announced last month that Verma had been put on leave but did not provide details about the nature of its investigation. Rain moved into San Diego last night and it's expected to last through tomorrow. Aaron Calandra has details in tonight's forecast.
Well, it certainly is a little bit more active here across San Diego County than it typically is. Look at all this green on the screen. Well, that indicates some rain, a couple of downpours. Could even see some hail and some thunderstorms moving across the area. And that's because we have that cold front that is pushing through, and that's bringing some showers to places that normally don't really see a lot of rain, like Las Vegas, for example. If you're heading in that direction, well, they're going to see some wet weather too. So for tonight, a shower or two left over. Temperatures at 56 degrees for the overnight low. And across the region, well, it's still going to be a bit wet in spots. We're not talking downpours across the county, but but some regions will have some showers continue throughout the evening. Mount Laguna could even see a snowflake or two in the 30s tonight. Borrego Springs at 55, staying dry and quiet. Oceanside, a couple of showers, 53 degrees, and in Ramona, right around 47 degrees tonight. Now, there's a big dip in the jet stream and also that low pressure system. That's what's driving this weather. It's going to become a bit cooler once the system moves out. You'll notice a drop in temperatures across the region. So tomorrow in San Diego County, we could see again a thunderstorm or two, especially along the coast. And I would not be surprised if we see a little bit of hail in some areas. In Ramona, around 60 degrees. Chula Vista, 62 tomorrow. And the deserts, they're going to stay pretty nice and sunny, 75 degrees, so not nearly as warm as it was. So along the coast here Wednesday, a thunderstorm in spots. It's going to be warmer on Thursday, up to 69. And then by the weekend, we're back in the 70s, and it's going to be sunny. In the interior areas, those thunderstorms are going to roll through in spots. Thursday, a drier day, back up into the 70s, about a 10-degree difference from Wednesday to Thursday. And then by the weekend, we are in the 80s and sunny. Could see a touch of snow Wednesday, mainly overnight in the mountains, and then clearing out, and temperatures will be up to the 70s by the weekend. And in the deserts, well, it's going to stay dry and sunny, and we'll be back up to the 90s, nearly 100 degrees here by the weekend. For KPBS News, I'm Erin Calandra. Ebony, back to you.
Last night, KPBS took a closer look at the county supervisors race in District 4. Tonight, the focus is on District 5, which covers much of North County from Oceanside to Borrego. Jade Hyman talked to constituents to find out what issues are important to them.
The term limit for the current District 5 supervisor, Bill Horn, is up. Now 4 candidates are vying for a seat. They include 2 Democrats, Michelle Gomez and Jacqueline Arcevad, along with 2 Republicans, Jim Desmond and Jerry Kern. For voters in District 5, several issues will determine who they vote for. We stopped in the largest city in District 5, Oceanside, where family-owned restaurants line the streets of this small beach town, and the farmers market brings everyone together.
It's I would say, an improving community. The weather is fantastic. Everything about it. We're close to all the good restaurants.
While there's a lot to enjoy, the voters you're hearing from also feel there's a lot that threatens their quality of life. Ask any resident and they'll tell you.
All the trends I see are positive, other than the homeless people. And that's, I've been here a few years, and each year it seems to increase in numbers. And I don't have a solution for it.
The neighboring police officers will bring homeless people into Oceanside and dump them.
All of the candidates feel using open land to build affordable housing would help ease homelessness. But for some people, like Julia Rivera, who live in the unincorporated area of the county, more development is the last thing she wants to see on this quiet Valley Center hillside.
I love it. I love it. That's the reason we try to leave the city to find these kind of places. Are so beautiful.
She says she moved here to get away from the traffic, the crowds, and the pollution. It's the part of growth and development not even some Oceanside residents like Michelle Jenkins want to see.
My streets on the weekends are so crowded with people from the out of area trying to park. People leaving their trash on the streets before they leave the beach and drive home. So I think there's a lot of growing issues that we didn't foresee.
Candidates say while new developments and affordable housing may be controversial, growth is inevitable. The question is, where will new developments be built and which area will have the least environmental impact? Republican candidates Jim Desmond and Jerry Kern both support the development of housing. Democratic candidates Michelle Gomez and Jacqueline Arcevad also want to build housing. Gomez wants to see it in the western part of the unincorporated area, and Arcevad wants to see it near already existing developments. But as housing developments are contemplated, residents like Jim Waite say there needs to be a plan to accommodate more traffic.
I've been a long-term supporter of emissions controls, electric vehicle owner for many, many years. But we've got freeway right behind us here, and it's important that we do have access down through the corridor here. It's a real challenge.
Jim Desmond and Jerry Curran have both suggested road repairs and more lanes. Both Michelle Gomez and Jacqueline Arcevode want to invest in public transit. Arcevode also wants to spend money on road technology. The challenge for each candidate is to have a plan that balances growth with conservation. Jade Hindman, KPBS News.
Our media partner, iNewsSource, is following the money this election season. Here with the latest cash report in the District 5 Supervisors race is iNewsSource reporter Jill Castellano.
After more than 2 decades in office, Supervisor Bill Horn is termed out. Of the candidates hoping to take his North County seat, San Marcos Mayor Jim Desmond leads the pack. Desmond has raised $54,000 since January, and he's loaned his campaign $17,500. Jacqueline Arcevo, a community planner, has raised $26,000 since January, including a $5,000 loan she gave herself. Candidates Jerome Kern and Michelle Gomez have each raised less than $18,000 since January. To learn more about the money behind this year's county elections, go to iNewsSource.org. For KPBS, I'm iNewsSource reporter Jill Castellano.
As the June primary nears, KPBS News will continue to reach out to candidates. You can see more of our election coverage at kpbs.org. 18,000 animals end up in city shelters each year, and starting this summer, they'll have a new caretaker. Last night, the San Diego City Council approved a new $12 million contract with the Humane Society to take over its animal service needs. The Humane Society already runs shelters in San Diego, Oceanside, and Escondido. It will take over the city's animal services starting July 1st. San Diego's mayor is touting a big investment in local infrastructure, but his plans could be impacted by a push to repeal the recent gas tax increase. KPBS reporter Matt Hoffman has more.
A large portion of the mayor's proposed budget is earmarked for upgrades to parks and streets.
The city will surpass $500 million in infrastructure funding for the first time in San Diego history.
But that could be hindered if SB 1, known as the gas tax, is repealed. Last year, the city received at least $8 million for road repairs from the recently implemented tax.
The state should have never raised the gas tax because there's so many other reforms that it needs to be doing.
A group against the tax says they have enough signatures to put a repeal measure on this November's ballot.
If that is repealed, we are going to see a marked reduction in our ability to be able to fund road repairs at the rate that we're doing today.
For 2019, it's estimated the city will receive at least $23 million from the gas tax, money that is already figured into the mayor's proposed budget.
I'm not going to let what happens in Sacramento slow us down.
If the gas tax is repealed, Councilmember Chris Ward says it will slow down road repairs.
If the voters decide that they don't want that improvement to continue, it's just going to make it that much more difficult to try and meet their expectations for a great road network.
The City Council's Budget Review Committee will take up the issue of infrastructure starting on Thursday. Matt Hoffman, KPBS News.
Unlike fixed expenses like your rent or mortgage or car payment, your monthly food bill is a variable. You can either spend a lot or a little. As part of our KPBS Midday series on personal finance, we spoke to Callie Brust from Olivewood Gardens and Learning Center about ways to keep your monthly grocery bill down.
There are simple tricks that we can do when we are grocery shopping, like planning ahead, making a grocery list, making sure that things are on sale when we purchase them, and doing a little bit of research before we even step into that grocery store so that we are saving a nickel here, a dime here, $5 here. It really does start to add up. I have had great success making friends with my grocers. So if I can be friendly with the butcher and know what meat is going to be on sale, or if they can cut in half a big portion of meat for me so I'm not wasting any when I get home. I love chatting with the butcher. If I can, make friends with any of the grocery store workers, they'll know what's going to be on sale, what's a great deal. They're most familiar with the food that you'll be purchasing, so it never hurts to ask. If we can buy food in its most wholesome form, we're going to be saving money. So think about that cauliflower rice. It's really big now. If I buy a bag of cauliflower rice, it's been lightly prepped, lightly processed for me. So every bit of processing will increase the price of that item. If I can buy a whole crown of cauliflower myself and process that at home, I've saved some money. I may have spent a little bit more time, but I will ultimately reduce my budget when I'm spending at the grocery store. As you're planning out your recipes, take a look at those seasonality charts. Fruits and vegetables come in season at different times of the year. In Southern California, it's really great because we have a really long growing season, but there still are seasons. And so Olive Wood Gardens and Learning Center, we've got a great seasonality chart that our gardeners have looked at, that have created this, and so it's really specific to Southern California. And so we know that our summer squash is coming available. Let's see if we can create a recipe with summer squash. There's a really big surplus of this food item at this point because it is in harvest, and so with that big surplus, we know that the price will go down. And so if we can buy that food, that fruit or vegetable in season, we'll ultimately save some money.
That was Callie Bruss from Olive Wood Gardens and Learning Center. You can get more personal finance tips at kpbs.org. Search for Your Money.
I'm Judy Woodruff. Tonight on the NewsHour, a look at the leaked questions the special counsel reportedly wants to ask President Trump about possible ties to Russia. Coming up at 7 on KPBS.
The 2018 Tony Award nominees were announced today, and many of the productions started in San Diego. The nominees with local ties include Junk and Latin History for Morons for Best Play. Meteor Shower and Summer, the Donna Summer musical, have nominations in the actress categories. Carousel has nominations for Best Revival and Best Choreography. The Tony Awards will be announced on June 10th. San Diego Symphony kicks off a new era as it welcomes its new music director. KPBS arts reporter Beth Accomando sits down with Raphael Pyrie to talk about his new job.
So tell me what it's like stepping into a job like this.
It's very exciting, I have to say. I came here in January and we have a wonderful time during that week. It's like relationships, you know, that is like when you go on a date and you have that chemistry, that kind of electricity. That's what had happened when I came here in January. Already the rehearsals, we started with Prokofiev and they toured with Prokofiev, but there were not any kind of boundaries or walls that they were trying to say like, okay, we know this piece, this is how we do it. But actually it was like, we know this piece, let's make it even, you know, let's try to get something around. And it was a beautiful process how we were making music. Everything was so alive. And then we did the concert, and I think the audience also felt that. So it was very, very exciting.
And what can a music director bring to a symphony in terms of kind of leading the direction for where a symphony goes or the kind of things that they do?
Try to think it like a journey, and we have to kind of try to put some different points and try to aim a goal, not for each season, but where do actually we want to go, and let's say as a starting point, and let's try to go through a journey and put it through different seasons, how we make this whole thing at the same time, not only elevating the artistic level, but bringing the community and all the audience with it, so we could actually have this journey absolutely hand by hand, so we could see a little bit what, let's say, some kind of repertoire that has been not played in a little while, or they have never been played, or what to do, so we could bring all of this to the audience here in San Diego.
And do you have any personal passions that you want to bring to this in terms of particular kinds of music or kinds of events you stage?
Ooh, it depends. It depends with the moods. Like I said, we need to see what will be the different stages that we need to bring to the orchestra, but of course I love the Austro-German repertoire, I love the Russian repertoire, French, different colors, Latin, how we make this thing, vocal music as well, how we actually kind of, we can draw something with the orchestra and for the audience to actually, let's say, maybe through a symphony cycle, how we could actually put into the stage, let's say the life of a composer, let's put Mahler or Beethoven, so maybe we will try to program it in a way that the audience could get to know not only the composer, but also at the same time having this wonderful music play, we could have like a biography on it. So it really depends on what, when, and how.
So what would you like people in San Diego to know about you? What kind of defines you?
I'm very honest. When I do music, I just have an approach of completely honesty and a lot of passion. That was one of the things that the founder of El Sistema in Venezuela, Maestro José Antonio Abreu, taught us, that whenever you are going to do something, you have to do it with passion, and it's like the last breath that you could actually are going to have. So with a full commitment, and you just go for it. And I will just, whenever we're going to be making music, it's going to be that way. It's never going to be just trying to do something because it might sound good. No, it is going to be with commitment and passion and absolute honesty.
For you in particular, what do you feel the importance of music is in people's lives?
Once you are going to make music, you have, of course, the harmony as a background, and you have a melody. But if the background in the harmony is not well in tune, the melody is not going to come across. Why I said this? Because if we try to get the music into people's life, and then you actually apply it to the life itself, that you could actually, before getting the melody or before achieving something, if you could actually get in tune for the harmony, you hear what the other person needs to say and maybe adjust to it, and then you could try to let the melody, which is going to be the goal for anything, shine. And if you do that, we apply that into normal life, the world could have a lot less problem, because we will be respectful of each other and trying to actually get in tune to get the melody out.
Thank you very much for taking some time to speak with us.
Thank you very much for having me.
You can find tonight's stories on our website, kpbs.org/evening edition. Thanks for joining us. Have a great night.